the police hit that killed 19 robbers in Limpopo. Chapter 1: The House of Secrets. In the wealthy suburb of Mikado, a mansion stood in silence, hiding dark secrets within its walls. The house belonged to a 37-year-old Zimbabwean national, a man with a mysterious past. To neighbors, he was just another affluent foreigner, but to the police, he was a person of interest. His wife, a quiet woman who rarely spoke to outsiders, seemed unaware of the storm brewing around her. The domestic worker and gardener went about their daily duties, oblivious to the deadly plan unfolding. Inside the house, whispered conversations took place between dangerous men. They planned their next big move, a cash-in-transit heist that would shake Limpopo. Little did they know, the police had been watching them for days. Their every move was tracked, their phone calls intercepted, their identities under scrutiny. On that fateful day, as they prepared to execute their plan, the police were ready to strike. What happened next would become one of the deadliest police raids in South African history. The house that once stood as a fortress would soon be riddled with bullets and bloodstains. Chapter 2: The Watchful Eyes of the Law. The South African Police Service, SAS, had been following the gang for weeks. Intelligence units gathered information about their movements, contacts, and plans. The robbers were highly organized with inside connections and resources. They knew how to evade the law, but this time, the law was closing in. Various elite units within the SAPs, including the Hawks and the Tactical Response Team, were on high alert. Undercover officers monitored the gang's meetings, waiting for the right moment to strike. The criminals planned to attack a cash-in-transit vehicle in broad daylight. The risk was high, but so were the rewards. They were after millions. The police couldn't afford to let them succeed. Lives were at stake. Orders were given, backup was called, and the operation was set in motion. Every officer knew the mission was dangerous, but they were prepared to face death. What they didn't expect was the level of firepower the gang had. Chapter 3: The Moment of Truth. After days of careful surveillance, the police finally made their move. They traced the gang's final meeting spot to a luxurious house in Mikado. The suspects had no idea they were being watched so closely. As they stepped out of the house, armed and ready to execute their plan, they sensed something was wrong. Suddenly, they spotted the police closing in from all directions. Panic set in, and instead of surrendering, the robbers opened fire. Bullets tore through the air, shattering windows and puncturing walls. The police retaliated, unleashing a storm of gunfire in return. The quiet neighborhood erupted into chaos as gunshots rang through the streets. The standoff had begun, and there was no turning back. For 90 relentless minutes, the battle between law enforcement and criminals raged on. When the dust settled, the scene was one of carnage. 19 robbers lay dead. Chapter 4: The Aftermath of a Massacre. The once grand house in Mikado was now a war zone. Blood pooled on the floors, bullet casings littered the ground, and shattered glass covered every surface. Among the dead were the gardener, the domestic worker, and the homeowner's wife. Collateral damage in a deadly exchange. The police conducted a thorough sweep of the property, uncovering a chilling arsenal of weapons. 11 firearms, loaded magazines, explosives, detonators, and lead cords were found. The amount of firepower indicated that this syndicate was no ordinary gang. The police had not just stopped a heist, they had dismantled a well-organized crime network. Outside, stunned residents gathered, whispering about the shocking events. Some mourned the loss of innocent lives, while others praised the police for their bravery. As officers carried out the bodies, questions arose. Who was the mastermind behind this gang? And was he among the dead? Chapter 5: A Bigger Web Unraveled. The police raid didn't end in Mikado. It extended to Thohoyandou. Another group of officers stormed a second safe house, arresting 5 suspects. These men were believed to be directly linked to the Mikado robbers. In their possession were weapons, stolen goods, and 2 suspicious vehicles. One of the cars had been reported stolen, while the other had fake ambulance branding. It was a clear indication that the syndicate used disguises to evade authorities. The arrested men refused to speak, knowing the law was closing in. With their comrades dead, they were now the last pieces of the puzzle. Investigators interrogated them, searching for clues about the gang's true leader. The deeper they dug, the clearer it became. This was part of a much larger criminal operation, one that extended beyond Limpopo and possibly beyond South Africa's borders. Chapter 6: Justice in the Balance. With 19 criminals dead and 5 in custody, the legal process began. The arrested men faced serious charges, including theft, conspiracy, and fraud. Their trial would be one of the most closely watched in South African history. Meanwhile, forensic teams worked around the clock, analyzing weapons and evidence. The explosives found at the scene suggested the gang had far-reaching resources. The question remained, who supplied them with such dangerous equipment? The police suspected an international smuggling ring, possibly involving corrupt officials. As the case unfolded, more names emerged, leading investigators down a complex trail. The hunt for the syndicate's mastermind continued, with authorities fearing he was still at large. But whispers suggested he might have fallen in the Mikado shootout. If that was true, the operation had been successful, but at what cost? Only time would reveal the full truth behind this deadly heist attempt. Chapter 7: A Wounded Hero. Not all the officers emerged unscathed from the violent encounter. A senior detective from the Hawk suffered a severe gunshot wound during the firefight. He had been leading the charge when he was struck by enemy bullets. Fellow officers rushed him to the hospital as the battle continued around them. Doctors fought to save his life, and after hours of surgery, he pulled through. The wounded officer became a symbol of the sacrifices made to protect the public. His survival story was one of courage, determination, and resilience. As he recovered, he provided crucial details about the operation. His testimony would play a vital role in ensuring justice was served. The police force rallied behind him, calling him a hero. His injury was a stark reminder of the dangers officers face daily. But despite the risks, they remained committed to bringing criminals to justice. Chapter 8: The Unnamed Mastermind. The final mystery in the case was the identity of the gang's leader. The police suspected he had been one of the 19 killed in Mikado. However, without a confirmed identity, doubts lingered. If he was still alive, he could be planning another heist elsewhere. Investigators combed through fingerprints, DNA, and phone records to confirm his fate. The crime syndicate's operations had been disrupted, but had they been destroyed? The police knew that criminal networks were like hydras. Cut off one head and another grew in its place. The government vowed to strengthen security measures to prevent future heists. But one thing was certain: the Limpopo raid had sent a powerful message. Crime syndicates would no longer operate with impunity. And for those who dared, the law was always watching, ready to strike.